hundreds of hods emerged from alley shacks with brooms, brushes, and pots of whitewash to paint over the graffiti and lamp soot. The army of indentured cleaners blanched the ringdom from port to piazza, where the spine of the tower rose from the city's centre like a pole in a circus tent. Pelphia's three most ancient institutions stood in the shadow of the ringdom's spine: the circuit of court, a sprawling, winding hedge of silk and wire; the vivant music hall, a cathedral that seemed as frail as a bleached reef; and the Colosseum. Once the Colosseum had been a university, and its fat columns and carved gables still bore the evidence of that former use. Scenes of laurelled philosophers and robed poets still decorated its high lintels, though the bottom halves of those women and men had been chiselled away. The remaining legless figures looked like bathers wading into deep water. The colonnade entrance, once as wide as a town square, had been shrunk by the addition of iron bars and a cage door that was never unguarded. Inside the Colosseum, a cheering crowd watched two half-naked men fight like dogs. The battling hods shoved each other about the red clay ring. Their iron collars clanged together as they grappled and strained. In the surrounding bleachers, where students had once sat absorbing the day's lecture, men now shook their betting slips and shouted themselves crimson. A lavish balcony haloed the common bleachers. Its railing, sparsely attended a moment before, now grew crowded with noblemen attracted by the uproar. They peered down at the brawl, sipping leaf-green liqueur from crystal glasses and smoking black cigarillos that stank like wet bedclothes. Magpies and doves swooped about the great dome overhead, driven from their nests by the mounting noise. Trembling from the effort, the old hod lifted the youth over his head and held him on his shoulders like the yoke of an ox. He turned in a slow circle, showing every seat his defeated rival, who had not 10 minutes before strutted out of the tunnel thumping his chest. The mob bayed. The old hod drove the youth to the ground, where he bounced once and settled in a prostrate sprawl. Every spectator in the arena, save one, made thunder with his hands. The victorious hod paraded with his arms up, his expression as inscrutable as an executioner's hood. A team of groomers emerged from the tunnels that ran under the stands. Some raked the clay, others dragged the moaning youth underground. The victor was gathered last, his iron collar hooked to a pair of poles, by which he was escorted from the floor amid a shower of losing betting slips. In the arena's lower tier, the man who refused to clap scanned the balcony railing, studying the faces of the noblemen in military and dining jackets. They did not pay him the compliment of acknowledgment. As a wanted man, Thomas Senlin found the snub amusing. But the same realities that had frustrated his own search for Marya now befuddled the ringdom's search for him. The tower overwrote the obsessions and longings of men and women with an indifference so intense it almost seemed purposeful. One did not have to hide long, nor change much to disappear inside the churning mass. Thomas Senlin had slipped again into the camouflage of the crowd. It didn't hurt his anonymity that the published bounty for the pirate Tom Mudd included a sketch of a much fiercer-looking man with an anvil chin, cannonball cheeks, and a gaze like a crucible full of slag. Perhaps Commissioner Pound had been too embarrassed to describe the man who'd robbed and eluded him honestly as a thin man with kindly eyes and a nose like a rudder. The crowd funneled from the bleachers to the lobby, a great vaulted room that didn't so much echo as boom with voices and commotion. A rowdy queue formed at the concessionary, where cloudy beer was being poured and splashed upon the floor. Another line grew about the betting cages, where guards in severe black and gold uniforms watched the room for men who were overly drunk or overly distraught. Finding any such show of excess, the guards offered a first warning by rifle butt and a second warning by bayonet. Caught for the moment in the human vortex, Senlin engaged in some idle eavesdropping. Most of what he heard just concerned the last fight, or the next, but one conversation distinguished itself from the rest. "I heard they're recalling Commissioner Pound," a man in a plum-coloured vest said. "It wasn't in the reverie this morning," his companion complained. "It will be tomorrow, I'd wager. Commissioner Pound, outwitted by a pirate named Mudd. How quick the wind turns." Senlin resisted the urge to